Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name is Jody Sedrick, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And I tell you, there are so many crazy things that you get to do as a dad. Some of them surprise you, some of them you plan to do, and sometimes they just catch you off guard. As you guys know, my daughter's in the middle of volleyball season. They ended regular season. Judy and I are heading to Texas tomorrow night for the WAC tournament. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully the girls can get it together and have a phenomenal tournament. But either way, it's going to be a great time. So I'm super excited because, as you guys can see this week, I have a guest. I've been wanting to get my friend Mike Smith on for a long time. So welcome, Mike. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. About time we did it.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you and I've known each other for quite a few years. I've watched you interact with your kids for a long time. You're a phenomenal business owner. You own a little detail shop called Wide Open Throttle Auto Spa. And so you've been around for a minute, and it's been fun to watch your business grow, to watch your family grow. And the thing that caught my attention, I mean, everybody's looking at you. They're seeing this nice shaven beard, and
Yeah.
dude, you had a beautiful beard,
Yeah.
but it was a little longer.
Yeah. It was only it was only down on my belt line.
Only down to your belly. I mean, you would have been a great cast member for the Lord of the Rings, man.
Yeah. They called me Gimli.
Oh man. So anyway, so he had this beautiful beard, and it was like your trademark. I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere you went, Mike Smith's long beard, it was beautiful, well kept, well manicured. And then a couple of weeks ago, I see you letting your daughter cut the beard off. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I mean, it's the death of an icon.
Yeah. It definitely it's still catching me off guard. Like I can't even look in the mirror right now without getting surprised. It's been years. I don't know how long it's been. I've had that beard for I think since my daughter was born is when I was starting to grow it out. And it was already about halfway, I think, to where it was when she cut it. And we've got the cartoons characters made from it, my icon, our stickers at the shop, our slogan, beard approved. It's been everything. I kind of exploited it, of course, and it was fun. It was a nice icebreaker for new clients. It's a nice icebreaker when you walk into a room with this huge beard, and it's fun to talk about, and and everybody feels comfortable. And then all of a sudden, here's my daughter going, "Daddy, can we cut your beard?" And she's in this phase of she really should be going to cosmetology school at the age of 4. Yeah. She's got to have makeup on and her hair done and braided, not braided, pigtails, regular ponytail, whatever it is. And she got a hold of some scissors a little while back, and she cut her own hair. And that was a big no-no. So we had to find an alternative to cure that itch. And unfortunately, I was that alternative.
Oh man, that is so funny because I have two daughters, as I think
Yep.
one is just athletic, no balls drop, let's get in the ring, let's wrestle. And then I got my girly girl, Cynthia, and she's all about doing the nails and doing the hair and doing the wigs. And there's been a few times, in fact, I think if you scroll some on my old feed where I'm like pretty dolled up.
Yeah. I can attest to that. I've been down that road many a times.
So let's talk about that, because I think a lot of men, they, especially at first when they get their daughter, and they're like, "Dad, can I do your nails? Can I do your hair?" I think a lot of men are initially uncomfortable with that, and
Yeah.
they're reticent to embrace that. So talk about, was that easy for you, or was it something that you had to really kind of bite the bullet and go, yeah, go ahead?
I honestly, for me, it was pretty easy. I totally understand that mindset, of course, too, right? I mean, I'm very much an alpha male by nature, and a lot of the guys I know, whether it's industry or friends or whatever, we're all business owners. We all kind of have that same alpha mentality, that macho-ness and machismo, whatever. And so I think that just by nature and really kind of, I think the time we all grew up in too, kind of change, that's changed more now than what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And who we had to be as men, as caregivers, providers, fathers, husbands, things like that. So I think that mentality exists pretty strong still. But for me, I don't know. When my daughter was born, there was like a instant love connection, right? And I mean, with any kid, you're going to have an instant love connection, and so it's not so much that, but there's something about, I've got two boys as well, but there's something about a girl that softens you up a little bit as an alpha male, and so whatever she wants, she kind of gets. And,
and the boys are going, wait, Dad.
yeah, they're.
Why does she get everything she wants and we don't?
Yeah, no, I try to, as fair can be, of course, and taking turns and sharing and whatnot. And they're all real young, so there's a big learning curve there. But you try to equalize it, but it's a softening love with the girl, and it's almost like a proud love with a boy, and it's kind of hard to explain the differences, because you don't love them any differently as far as amount of love, but you do naturally kind of shift how you handle each child, I guess. I don't know.
There's two things thoughts that I have while I'm listening to you. Number one, kind of that masculine macho thing, because like I really enjoy the time with my daughter. Cynthia will come in, she's like, "Hey Dad, can I do a pedicure on you? And can we do it together?" I mean, she'll bring out the stuff, man. She's got these little files and this little drill, and I mean, she gets into it, and I'm like, and I gotta admit, first couple times I'm like, I'm not so sure about this, but what I've really enjoyed about it is that it's given us this one-on-one time where she's serving me, I'm enjoying being served, and we're talking and we're visiting and we're connecting. Mm-hmm. And I still draw the line of, I don't want fingernail polish on my fingernails, but on my toes, I don't care. So in the summer, a lot of times I'll have blue or purple toes, right? But I think the biggest thing about that is having the moment to connect in something that she's interested in. Some of the conversations have just been really, really fun. Sometimes she talks about the boys. Sometimes she talks about her friends that are bugging her. Or she just wants to talk about her dreams. And it's just been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I agree. There's been plenty of times I've gotten the makeup or the nail polish. I just make sure, we use the water-based nail polish with her, so I can kind of take a baby wipe to it and kind of, wash it off real quick. But
no, mine lasts for weeks.
No, we're not. I have yet to go down that path personally, but. Also, her age does make that a little bit more, difficult. I'm not allowing that in the house just yet.
And that kind of leads me to my next thing. Is like, I'm not allowing that, right? And you said something really profound. A daughter tempers you.
Yeah.
She helps you become gentler and softer, and that ripples across the boys as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So talk about that kind of transition in yourself. Have you liked it? Has it been difficult and awkward, or is it?
I don't know if I liked it or not as much as I needed it. I'm very hard headed. I can lack emotion at times, and more so before she was born than now. And kind of just that hardened soul. And when she was born, that allowed me to kind of open up, be a little bit more sensitive, more in tune with emotions, because these little girls have a ton of emotions. And it took a while to understand that. And it's not the same as what I would feel. And so that definitely transitioned well, with my two boys, kind of not coming at them so hard, because had I not been softened up a little bit, then I think, they'd have it a little bit more rough. Now, I mean, I still have really high expectations, even though, one's not talking or walking or anything, I'm pushing them. Hey, let's start crawling. Let's try it. Hold his hand, and he'll do little squats in my lap and tell him he's getting a workout in, and things like that. Yeah, I hold standards high for them. But I think if I didn't have the girl first, then I honestly, I'd almost be worried for the boys, because I think that softening effect that I got from her changed a lot of things for me in life, not just for the boys, but in life, at work, even how I worked with my team, just taking some different approaches and backing it down a notch. She has a lot to play with that. So
Yeah, it's interesting, that you talk about how she has tempered you for your boys, right? Because I have four boys and I have two girls, and the two girls came at the end of it, right? And it's interesting as I reflect on my interaction with all of our kids, because I'm a very rough and tumbly kid. I was that dad that threw my kids across the room and my brother would catch them. And I did that with my daughters too, right? Well, my one daughter, because we adopted Cynthia when she was 8. And so, I tried really hard to go, all right, I'm going to treat these kids as as I could, right? I didn't want to make my daughter feel like she was different, but I wanted her to feel loved and special, right? And so, but it was interesting because there still was a tempering that came upon my approach.
yeah,
Whether I wanted it to happen or not, it tempered me, right? It made me gentler. And I noticed that my interaction with my boys was a lot more amiable and less demanding, because I imagine if your boys came first, you would have been, all right, boys, we're going to get it done. Right.
yeah,
And I've noticed that over time, especially with two girls, that it's really seasoned me and tempered my approach to a lot of things. It doesn't mean that I've diminished or lowered the bar. It's just my approach to
yeah.
interacting with them has changed.
Correct. Yeah. I don't, just because I hold the boys to high standards doesn't mean I don't hold her to high standards, and the standards and what I want for these kids is the same across the board. The approach is different, and
Yeah.
that's not to say that I don't take, my 1-year-old who's been real sick lately, and having a lot of health issues and shit. We cuddled up last night, like I cuddled up my daughter. Nothing different there. Nothing, nothing treated different. At the end of the day, it was still love, support, comfort to him as much as it would have been to her. Just he was the one that was sick, so he's the one that got that kind of attention. So I think across the board, the love is love, right? You still love these kids regardless of anything, but the approaches can be different, or sometimes like that in that scenario, the same. I think it's the approach with the daughter is definitely a little bit different than the approach with the son.
So I have a thought, and I've never thought about this even for myself. Do you find that having a daughter has tempered your relationship and enhanced your relationship with your wife?
Um, I think it definitely could have. Just we were talking the other day, and it was, um, I admitted I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a ton of emotions about some things, and then I realized I was like, wait, but actually, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said half the stuff I said today. And I know you didn't know me 5 years ago, but this is what it is, and kind of explaining it that way. So yeah, I definitely think that it plays a part. I'm on my second marriage now, and so that definitely changed going into this one. I can tell you that because I had already had my daughter, and so that's something that I think played a better role as far as communicating the emotions behind certain scenarios, whatever it may be. How am I going to respond to her that's not going to be as harsh as I probably would have responded 5-10 years ago? How can I communicate better, make my approach a little bit softer, a little bit easier? Not just going for that direct, harsh, this is what it is, this is blunt, no sugarcoat, black and white, boom. Try a little bit different approach. So I think that definitely has changed how I treat my wife, to a certain extent.
You're like, I can see you in the back of your head. You're like, yeah, I've improved, but I got a long way to go.
Yeah, I'm not done. I'm not done.
And I love that because I like having these conversations, because I think if we don't have the authentic, real discussions about how we're growing, how we're moving, but we're still holding on to some things that, whether they're comfortable or we just don't want to give them up because of our pride or our stubbornness. No, and what I found is that having children and being married are two kind of nails in the coffin, or knives on the honing board, that pull off different aspects of your character that are rough or abrupt, right? And so if we can embrace that, the opportunity that our children and our wife give to us to improve and become better husbands and better fathers, it's part of the process. It's all about becoming, right? And I think a lot of times we as men internally judge ourselves very harshly, right? Because there's things that you're probably holding back, but in the back of your head, you're going, yeah, I'm not doing so good there, right?
Yeah, and I think as if you take a alpha male father or husband, I think that generally the alpha part of us is going to hold us ourselves to a much higher standard. At that point, you're more often than not going to be a provider type role, and your definition of provider could be very extensive. And everybody's got a different definition. Mine is outrageous, I'll tell you that. What I want in life for my family and my kids is ridiculous, as far as what I'm going to be able to accomplish, but it's going to push me that much further to accomplish those things. And so I think that plays a huge part in everything too, because if you're not looking at it from how much more can I grow as a man, I think that we lose sight of ourselves too, and we can fall short. We start losing communication. We start losing the emotional connections and things like that along the way. So I think ultimately it's like you have to hold yourself to that standard, or these higher standards, but we do it subconsciously at the same time. We're putting ourselves through the ringer without being told to put ourselves through the ringer.
So being an alpha male, right? You're very driven, right? And there are certain expectations that you expect in yourself and also in your relationship with your wife and out of your kids. How do you balance that internal drive to be in control, to make things happen, to be a provider, to be successful. How do you balance that drive without crushing the spirits of your kids while still inspiring them?
That's a fine line. There's a lot of apologies, I think, in life that have to come out of me. To my wife, to my kids, sometimes you just get on this train of run, and you lose sight of some of the smaller, simple stuff. And so how do you do it? I don't know. I'm still learning that, to be honest. I catch myself from time to time, and more so lately, I've been working on the communication side of it, kind of slowing down, being more passive about the approach instead of very direct. Also kind of just being more perceptive instead of defensive when it comes to receiving feedback. There's a lot of times I think when you're driven, you're like, oh, there's no way you're right. I was right. You don't tell me how I feel. Like this is what's really going on. And we're in this tunnel vision, right? And so we can easily lose sight of what really is going on around us. And you don't know that you're stepping on, the spirit of the kid, right? Or your wife. You're just focused on wanting the best, and you're focused on wanting to see them grow. And you're doing it for yourself a lot of times, because you're putting those expectations out there. You do want these kids to, like, for me, I want my kids to be better than I am at the end of the day, whatever that is. If it's better at baseball, great. That's not going to be hard. If it's better at football, even better. If it's better at work, if it's better at communication, whatever it is, like, I want my kids to excel and exceed where I finished in life. I want them to be able to go further than I ever did. So in that sense, you're putting all this focus on it. What do they want? That's a question that I have to slowly keep asking myself and stepping back, being like, well, my daughter's 4 or about to be 4. Like, you know what she wants? Like, I don't know. Like, I think I should keep pushing. And then she looks at me weird, and it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, go get a cookie and go to bed. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
And I think that's a real challenge, especially when you're an alpha dad, right? Especially when our kids come to us with a problem, or we see a problem in the house. Our go-to response is to step in and demand results or solve the problem immediately. Mm-hmm. And especially as my kids got into the teen years, I realized that a lot of times my kids would come to me and I would want to immediately respond. I would immediately want to jump in and solve the problem. And it took me a long time to just sit in my thoughts and discipline myself not to open my mouth and to really listen to understand instead of solving the problem. And what was interesting was, as I learned how to do that more and more, a lot of times the kids would come to their own solution because I allowed them the space to work through it in their mind in a safe place.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Why would we force them to make a decision that we came up with when they need to eventually become independent adults to make their own decisions?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we, especially as alpha dads, do is we need to empower our kids to make decisions. We need to give them the freedom to make mistakes. And through that process, through both of those processes, they will learn how to make better decisions, and they will have the confidence to do that.
Yeah. And the confidence building is huge too. That's something that every kid needs. There's a lot of kids without voices because of the lack of confidence, without, the lack of support. There's a lot of adults like that because they grew up like that too, so, to prevent that from being a continuing cycle, confidence is a big thing that I like to focus on too with the kids, really kind of over promoting small wins just to kind of build that character, build that confidence. Whether it's just as simple as a high five, like great job, over just picking up after themselves, or just something, small wins, kind of glorifying those to really amplify that confidence that, hey, I'm doing something right. Like this feels good. And let them run with that. Let them run with that feeling of, wow, Dad said, great job. He gave me a high five and a cookie. Like, this is great. I'm all about that, because I think that in life, when you lack certain confidences, it becomes more challenging. And, there's a lot of doors that don't open as naturally when you walk up to them with a lack of confidence. As a parent, what are we doing with these kids? We're trying to get them ready for life. We're not going to be there forever. We're not going to be able to hold their hands forever. My daughter's getting heavy. I'm not going to pick her up forever, and so.
Yeah, we definitely got to the point where I'm like, God gave you 2 legs, use them.
Yeah. We're getting there. I got all 3 in my arms sometimes. It's a little rough.
Yeah, but you're a big man and you got big shoulders, so you can handle it.
Yeah, I try. They start.
So I have 2 last questions kind of in wrap up. So the first of all, and this is your second marriage. So let's talk about, what have you learned, or what has been challenging through blending families?
A lot. Yeah. And it's a constant, job. You have to work at it every day. There's not always going to be joint decisions. There's not. And what constitutes as a joint? Usually when we talk about joint, it's me and my wife, or you and your wife, or whatever. That's generally the joint decision that we always talk about. But in a case like this, it's a 3-way decision. And sometimes 4. Sometimes my parents are involved, just because of complications in scheduling, and I might be in Florida or Las Vegas, and whatever it may be. Like there's routes that we have to take to take multiple people's decisions into place. And so blending the family is very difficult. There's a lot of respect that has to get earned, but also given. There's a lot of extra, not necessarily unnecessary communication, but extra communication to really make sure things stay transparent. When you lose that transparency, it's easy to assume certain things, and that might not be true. So that becomes difficult. And then of course there's a reason why people aren't together, right? And so there could be some animosity involved in that, and some troubled past there. And how do you keep that away from the kids? Like, so most importantly to us, and all of us that make this decision in our blended family, is that the kids come first. The kids need to understand that, we're doing the best we can for them. And so we try to treat each house or each situation no different than if we were still a single family, and so this is, these rooms are your rooms. This is your house. What's great is you have 2 houses. How cool is that? Like, you actually get 2 houses. Some kids only have 1. You get 2 teddy bears instead of 1. You have 2 rooms. You have 2 makeup sets, and kind of just focusing on the positive side of being a blended family has really helped, minimize the trauma in that. So it's difficult, but especially with the young kids, it's really the positives that allow you to stay there, and then kind of keeps that communication open. When you see the kids are doing well, it's not so hard to talk to the other side again. You know, you're on the same page. You have a common goal. And so it doesn't hurt as bad. And it allows that door to stay open so you can communicate those things as well. But it's every day is a work in progress. I don't think it'll ever be completely done.
Yeah, I like that. You know, the thought there that it won't ever be completely done, right? Because I think a lot of times we underestimate the trauma that you as a couple went through, but also now your children are going through, right? And allowing each one of us room to express our frustration, our hurt, right? Because it sounds great. Oh, you got two toys, you got two teddy bears, right? But from a kid's perspective, especially when it's new, right? When it's fresh and it's raw, and they're seeing the tearing of their family, but now they see it trying to come together, you know, trying to wrestle with these mixed emotions of, oh, you know what, I really like this guy, or I really like this lady. You know, I think back when, you know, when we first adopted our kids, you know, my son and I, if you look at pictures, he has always got his arm on my shoulder, and we were always together, right? But that first year was really, really tough for him, because on one hand, he would have preferred to stay in his home, right? And Haiti, right? And then he comes here and he has this new dad, and he really likes me, but he also feels guilty that he likes me. He's also mad that he had to be, you know, be adopted. And, you know, all of this conflict of emotions that children are working through, that I think a lot of times we as adults, as parents, we can brush aside and not give the children room to work through their own feelings of loss and hurt and sorrow, but also excitement too at a new opportunity, right? And try to figure out a way to help them bridge and walk through the process with us.
Yeah, and I mean that's easily done too, right? Like it's easy for us to overlook because we're focused on trying to provide a better life. We're trying to move on with our own lives. That it's really easy to kind of forget what they feel. Like you're trying to provide something better to them, whether it's two of everything or whatever, you know, whatever it may be. But it is easy to lose. Like maybe they didn't want two of everything. Maybe you need to kind of slow down and be like, I'm sorry. You know, for me right now, my kids are so young that an apology to them doesn't mean anything. I think it's a conversation that later in life, I'm absolutely going to have. When in life, no idea. Is the question come from them later in life? Absolutely. You know, am I prepared for that? No. Are they going to get the truth? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, I think it's easy to lose that, how they feel. Like I said, for me, it's not been as terrible, just because they are so young, you know, and my daughter she's the oldest. She's about to turn 4 here in January, and she gets it. And she's happy, you know. She really enjoys spending time with her mom. She really enjoys spending time with me. And she treats my wife now. She calls her mommy. You know, she sees her just the same. She knows who her birth mom is, and they have a very special bond because of that. And they should. You know, you're never going to take that away. They should have their own special bond, because to me, a mother or a father should never be replaced. And that's my whole mentality, and something that, you know, I had to really come out on a soapbox and tell my ex-wife too. I said, look, at the end of the day, you're still the mother of my children. No matter what way you want to look at this, we made them. We did that. We can't take it back. We're not going to take it back. You're never going to be replaced. All we're going to add here is a bonus mom and a bonus dad. I'm going to not get replaced, but there's going to be another dad in play. There's no way around that. And so that's, something that we try to take into consideration, that, emotions play a huge part, and no one wants to be replaced as a biological parent. Right.
No. Yeah.
So that's something that has to be said.
So looking back, right? I mean, your oldest is 4. You're got 2 boys. And so what are some things that you've either learned about being a father or that you've discovered about yourself that you think are helpful for other men to hear?
Slow down. Things happen really quick. And again, for me, like, I'm a very driven alpha male, and it's very easy to get caught up in the next best thing, or I'm trying to create the next best thing. I'm trying to create something that's bigger and better. And I can tell you that, I didn't see my daughter grow up at an early age because I was too busy running to build something. And I always said, oh, this is for her. This is for her. That was my justification, right? At the end of the day, like, no, I'm doing this because I love her and I want the best for her, which wasn't a lie, but it was definitely justifying not being there. And, so if you don't slow down, you're going to miss out on what it really is to be a father. And I think that if I could go back in time, the biggest thing for me would be to slow down. And I'm still working on that. I got some more things up my sleeve. I got a bunch of irons in the fire, and I don't quit. I'm always on the go. But I think, you have to slow down. And there's a million things somebody can learn about being a father or anything in life. But man, to me, that is such a strong concept that we all lose. And we lose it easily, because it's so easy to get caught in life's mess. It's so easy to see what's going on and, want to go do stuff. And, being a parent, especially when your kids are young, that's hard. You just threw away your drinking years, your party years. It's like all of a sudden you got to slow down and be an adult. What's this adulting thing that they keep telling us? And so I think the most important thing, if anybody could walk away with something today, is slow down. You're going to lose everything if you don't. And by losing everything, it might just mean missing those special moments, missing the dance recital, missing the first t-ball practice, missing certain things that we take for granted. And honestly, those moments are worth more than any amount of money I've ever made.
Ditto, man. Ditto. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to visit. We could obviously keep going, but I want to be respectful of your time. You can go spend some time with your family. So thank you so much. I appreciate your story and your insight and your wisdom. The nice thing is your kids are still young, right? So you've already learned to slow down. So you're going to capture a lot of things that maybe I missed. But, I tried to be very active. And dude, I can tell you, don't miss a moment. If you can be there, be at every event of your kid, whether it's a spelling bee or art display or a football game or a cross country meet, dude, be involved, be present, because really all your kids really need is you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All they need is you.
Rest. Yeah. You remember if your parents were there or not. And it's something you gotta step in for.
Yep. I still remember my dad showing up at a soccer game that I didn't expect him to show up. There he was on the sidelines. And I still remember that to this day. So
it's empowering, it's impactful when you have moments like that. You can't take them for granted. You don't know what kids are going to think. You got to do it.
You got to do it. Well, thank you so much, guys. If you don't know Mike Smith, go get connected with him. He's with Watt Auto Spa. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. Has a great family, great business. And I just want to thank you again for being part of the show and sharing your experience and insight. And you guys tuning in, thank you guys for tapping in. Please remember, like, share, and subscribe. And you know what? Christmas is coming up. If you need a book to read or you want to give one away, go check out my book, Learn to Dance with the Currents of Life. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I think you might enjoy it. So it's been fun to write it. I'm actually working on my second book, which I have a goal of finishing by the end of the year so that I can get it published at the beginning of next year. So we're working on it. Cool things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. We will check you same time, same bat channel just next week.
Perfect.
See ya.
Take care.
Thanks, brother.